Welcome into another live episode of the Bully Ball podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Are the 49ers back after defeating the terrible Dallas Cowboys? Should they be buyers at the trade deadline? And can this team go on a streak and be that team that everyone fears in the playoffs? Steph and I are going to break it all down right after this. I'm Jason Aponte. That's Steph Sanchez. This is the Bully Ball podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Before we get into everything, Steph, how are you? Your hair looks amazing today, and I like that chain. Are we blinging together? Are we? Is this what did we come to the pod blinging?
I always try to bling, you know that day, but yeah, you join the party. We see that shining.
Hey, just a little bit, got a little bit of money. We're all right, man. We do it all right, but the thing that everybody's here to talk about is not our chains, your amazing hair, how great you are as a person and a friend. It's about the Simpsons game for the NFL. That's it. Let me pop off for just a second. I know you guys want to talk about the 49ers real quick.
I should have known this was where it was going.
Oh my God. So last night, I'm sitting there and I get the notification on my phone that the ESPN game will be a Simpsons themed game. And if you guys are following along at home, last season it was Toy Story with the Jaguars and the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken. This season it will be the bum-ass Bengals and bum-ass Cowboys, but they'll be in Simpson form. This is literally the greatest thing that's ever happened to the NFL. Throw out the forward pass, throw out all the other things that have happened in the NFL. This is by far the greatest thing.
So the players are going to be Simpson characters? Is that?
They'll be Springfield like eyes, like almost in the same way that like the Toy Story characters,
that's awesome.
That way. Yeah. Oh my God.
I thought it was just going to be like the broadcast. Like I don't know what they were going to do, to be honest with you. I thought they're just going to sprinkle in some Simpson stuff, but if they're actually like in the Simpson universe and Simpson characters of some sort, like that is really cool. I might actually watch, right? Like we got to watch now.
I mean, you have to drag me to the TV to make me watch the bum-ass Bengals and bum-ass Cowboys, but it is going to be centered around that Bart versus Homer. Bart's the Bengals. I think Dallas is Homer, so they're going to go up against each other. There will be Simpsons characters. Mina Kimes and Dan Orlovsky are going to be on play-by-play. Steph, if you can't notice, or if anybody can't notice, this is excellent. I am so happy right now.
You're gonna be like a child on Christmas that day. Like it's gonna be a holiday for Jay. If you guys
100%. Speaking of the bum ass Cowboys, the 49ers absolutely dispatched the Cowboys. And in this game, as the weeks led up to it and we looked at the schedule, we counted this one as a W because the 49ers own the Cowboys. And this was a game the 49ers absolutely had to have. But Steph, I wouldn't say that I necessarily learned anything about this team other than everything is going to be difficult. Nothing will be simple. Coming off a season in which we just boat raced almost everybody. Now this season, it seems like everything is going to be a chore. And we're looking for the 49ers to establish their identity. But is their identity making things difficult? That's what I want to ask you.
I don't know what the identity of this team is. And like it kind of feels like we're just back to square one. Because what was it, like 2 weeks ago after the 49ers beat the Seahawks? It's like, okay, cool. Like they did what they needed to do. They got this win that they needed badly. Now what? Like, can they do it next week, right? And then they didn't do it against the Chiefs. So I think we understand why. Still disappointed by the way that it all looked and how that unfolded. I wouldn't say like I have renewed hope about this team. In the first half, like things were looking very shaky, especially for the offense. I went ahead and I said, like, this team is uninspiring right now. And I still don't know if the second half absolved that feeling for me. So I stand by that still today, with that I don't really know what this team is. I don't know what their identity is. I don't know if they can go on a run. I do have optimism around it because that optimism comes from Christian McCaffrey making a return, right? Dre Greenlaw making a return soon enough, right? But I mean, I don't know. I still have questions. I still have a lot of questions about this team. Are they going to be able to turn it around? I still don't know. We're halfway through the season, and I don't know what this team is. Is that normal?
No, it's not. But not to break up, the football talk. We just got news that Charvarius
Oh
Ward's 1-year-old
no,
daughter passed away. And that is heartbreaking. And in a time when we're talking about football, that just feels like football doesn't matter right now.
man.
Um,
That's
prayer,
awful.
I don't know. Thoughts and good energy to Charvarius Ward and his family. I can't imagine what's going on. His daughter is 1 years old. Was 1 year old. This one hurts a lot. Just to the parents, to anybody who has any sort of conscience or any sort of soft feelings or anything like that. My God, man, I don't even know. I don't even know how to respond to this stuff.
Oh yeah, no, that's awful. Wow. Obviously that's very like sudden news. I don't know if there was anything that was going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but in any case, like going forward, like that's that's really tough news.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're gonna have to continue and talk about the 49ers, but this is just one of many reminders. Hug your loved ones. Tell them you cherish them. You never know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Um, yeah, that's just hard to now pivot away to, and it almost seems trivial to talk about the 49ers right now, man. So yeah, just thoughts and prayers and good energy towards the Ward family and everybody. I can't imagine what they're going through right now. So um yeah, I guess like back to the Cowboys thing is, look, I didn't learn anything about the 49ers in this game because I knew they were better than the Cowboys. And it was me a few weeks ago saying, I think the Cowboys stink. I'm not worried. And everyone's, oh, well, you didn't, you lost to the Rams and Cardinals. How can you say it? It's different. The Rams and Cardinals are divisional foes that have given you trouble after trouble. The Dallas Cowboys, they're just a bug on the windshield. And for a while during this game, it felt like that, especially in the third quarter. That third quarter felt as
Yeah.
close as it could be to last season,
Hmm.
where the 49ers are rolling. I think that's the first time in 100 years or something like that that somebody had 100 passing yards and 50 rushing yards or something like that in the third quarter or something. It's some crazy stat for Brock Purdy. So as crazy as he played in the third quarter, it was like the ultra opposite of how it went. And here it is. There's been 26,276 quarters of NFL football played since 2000. In only one did a quarterback throw for 100 plus yards on 100% completions while rushing for 30 yards. There you go. And that was Brock Purdy. So this game didn't open up the way that we wanted it to. And for
Right.
large stretches of this game, it just felt like Brock was off. And then they go into halftime and they come right out and they just start blitzing everybody again. And that really felt like last season more than anything with that. So it's kind of funny how it flipped from, hey, he's having an off game to, oh, there's Brock and we're back. What were your takeaways from the halftime adjustments? I
Yeah,
was
I
also
was.
told I was also told Kyle Shanahan can't adjust, by the way. But
Oh man,
Trevon Trevon Diggs said that in whatever, the famous Cowboys podcast that they always do. He was like, oh, they just adjusted a little bit better. So yeah, I was told Kyle Shanahan can't adjust. Just saying.
yeah, he did praise Kyle Shanahan's coaching and saying they pretty much had better coaching than the Cowboys. Who would have thought? Who would have thought, right? But anyway, yeah, like I almost didn't recognize Brock Purdy in the first half, right? Like it just looked very discombobulated. Um, it was Jimmy G-esque in some moments, right? He was just missing some throws that he normally would make, throwing hospital balls, throwing behind receivers, led to some drops, missing wide open dudes. So yeah, it was strange, right? But yeah, I think in the second half he definitely settled in. Whether that was a specific adjustment by Kyle Shanahan or if it was just Brock Purdy like locking in, I don't know, but it definitely worked out. The thing that I think is most noticeable in the second half is that it just seemed like the 49ers went back to basics, right? Like they went back to their bread and butter. In the first half, Brock Purdy's average depth of target was 10.1 yards. In the second half, it was 3.8. So if Brock needs to go back to the Yak Merchant I don't care. He's our yak merchant, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if that leads to wins
Mm-hmm.
and, a 21-point quarter, that is okay with me. God damn it. So, yeah, I mean, targeting the short and middle of the field, he was 8 of 10, 132 yards, pass rating of 118.8. And also in that game against the Cowboys, 141 yards after the catch, which is the season high. We've been talking about how the 49ers have been like the lowest in the league in yak. Sometimes it's okay to go back to your roots, because sometimes that works. That's what makes your offense go. It looked like Brock was way more comfortable in the second half once he got in that rhythm, right? Once you always equate and you always make that analogy, right? Of like a shooter seeing the ball go through the hoop. Like that's the same thing. Once you get those completions going, it's like, all right, yeah, I'm feeling myself now. And then also just the scrambling, right? And it's always opportune. Is that the word? Opportune scrambling? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna use it.
That's good.
Roll with it. Yeah, like he always runs in opportune times, and it has worked for this team as well. I didn't know this, but he has more rushing yards this season than Josh Allen. That's pretty crazy. And maybe Allen hasn't been rushing as much as he normally has in the past, but still pretty surprising. And he has 15 first downs from scrambling this season. That's tied with Jaden Daniels. So my QB got wheels. All right. Yeah. And I like, it's like savvy too, when he chooses to scramble. He had that one play where I almost thought it was a designed run for him, but it wasn't. He just like very quickly made that decision to run that ball. I hope that does get worked in as a designed run for Brock going forward.
Yeah, I saw that too.
He got wheels, man. So yeah, I mean, definitely settled in the second half. I was pleased with it. If we're looking at Brock and we're kind of deciding how much he should get paid in the first half, I was like, I don't know. You're like definitely below 60. All right, maybe after the second half, we're back in that 60 range.
And it happens that quick. And I think what's funny is the Cowboys, who play a lot of zone, they turned into a man team because they thought, again, oh, well, everybody else is, but the problem is your defense isn't good. So it doesn't matter about you playing man.
Even Debo was winning against man against the Cowboys.
And I thought it was funny because the game starts and Kyle goes after Eric Kendricks right away. Like, we didn't forget about you, Eric Kendricks. Okay. You think you can dip on us and go and leave us with Devondre Campbell? Cool. We're cooking your ass on a quick throw, like out to Debo. By the way, stop playing with Debo, by the way. He would have had a lot more touchdowns. I'm tired of this fan base regularly trying to trade him every single week. Okay. He's not going anywhere and you need him. But it's funny to me that the way that you soften the man coverage is by running the football as the quarterback. Isn't that funny? Everybody's got their backs turned and they're down the field, and now your quarterback can run, and you put a QB spy on him. Brock's legs are what the 49ers were kind of looking for in Trey Lance, right? Like you wanted a guy who was going to win from the pocket, but can make life miserable for defensive coordinators with their legs. And it's funny that it's resonating now with Brock Purdy, and that's the way that things kind of opened up, because if you sit in zone, then you can stay there and you can actually be better against running quarterbacks. But if your backs are turned and you're running man and everybody's, then, he can do whatever he wants. It's funny to me that everything that the 49ers were kind of looking for in Trey Lance, except for, like the rocket arm, like that's the one thing that Brock doesn't have. But who needs that when you're accurate and you're throwing with anticipation, is right now in Brock Purdy. And I think that's just kind of funny how it kind of worked out, like when it came to that. But that's the kind of bind that type of quarterback wants to put all defenses in, and you want to have that guy on your side. So yeah, I thought it was interesting that all that happened as well too. So yeah, early on in this game, Brock just looked off, just missing throws. The fourth down play, that's not a drop on Deebo Samuel. That's a ball that's behind him. Sure, it hit him in the hands. If it hit him in the hands and he was jumping up in the air, did you want him to catch that too? Tired of that. Oh, it hit him in the hands thing. That's ridiculous. If the throw's not there, it's not a drop. Now he does drop the ball that usually, was going to be a touchdown for sure. But this 49ers team in the first half, they had several big plays called back, or they just weren't executing. Name of the game. Again, same thing over and over this season. We keep talking about execution. They were beating themselves. There's a long touchdown to Deebo Samuel, call back on a holding. Big play, call back on a holding. Debo's got a caravan of people in front of him that's about to be a touchdown, drop the pass. Just execution, right? And that little stuff early on in the game was just an extension of what's been going on with this team. So you kind of feel like you're getting lulled into this, like, oh my God, not this again. Going into this, like, and against this team, it can't happen. So the funny thing is, it's just, what are the 49ers? Right now, they're not going to make anything easy. They still feel like they're a little bit undisciplined, and they still feel like they're a little sloppy. Like, it's hard to argue with that. You won the game. You won the game essentially because Dallas is just terrible. And that's been my contention the entire time going into this game. It's less that, obviously, I know the 49ers are better, but Dallas sucks. And they have sucked the entire season. It was easy for anybody to see that the 49ers were going to get that one done, but it doesn't have to be that close. It doesn't have to boil down to like those little extra. Because if there's another team on the other side that is really good, like do that against the Rams now that they're fully healthy, watch what happens. Corey Soto says this team looked the same one quarter. Still think they'll lose to any team even remotely competent. Brock Purdy had 2 INTs dropped and was bad outside of the third. The next good team will bring reality back. Maybe.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that line of thinking too, because I mean, it's true. If you look at the 49ers schedule and who they've beat the Jets,
bad team,
bad Seahawks,
team, bad
Cowboys,
team,
exactly.
Bad team.
So like all it's proven is that the 49ers are maybe not a bad team, or they're just slightly above a bad team, but that doesn't mean they're a good team right now, right?
Yeah.
I think we know. Again, we've seen the glimpses, right? There is some good here. The 49ers still have, like, as far as like yards per play, they're way up there. As far as like drives and what they can sustain, it's good. I'm not too encouraged by the fact that the 49ers were, what was it, 3 of 4 in the red zone? The Cowboys were 31st in red zone defense going into this game. I can't imagine that it's much better now. So it was there for them against this Cowboys team. I'm kind of with this, that I'm not like using this game as like hopium for this team. Like I really don't know. And like I said, my optimism is coming solely from Christian McCaffrey and Dre Greenlaw coming back, and maybe whatever trade they make in the next week or so.
Yeah. And that's a perfect way to segue it. So look, to put a bow on the Cowboys game, George Kittle owns you. You're terrible, Dallas, and you should be ashamed. And if I was a fan, I personally wouldn't put up with it. And please stop talking to me about the Dallas Cowboys in any conversation with the San Francisco 49ers. And anytime that I tell you that the 49ers are going to beat the Dallas Cowboys, don't argue with me. Argue with yourself. Okay? This one's done. Diamandola knows a dog. That's also really good. That's also really good. Best to ranked 21st, I believe, in coverage grade out of the league, ahead of Trent McDuffie. Who is one of the better corners in the league in Kansas City. Diamandola knows a stud. Nick Bosa had a great game as well, too. That's good. And yeah, it's the Dallas Cowboys are not in the conversation with the Niners. So when you come to me and you say, oh man, they lost to the Rams and the Cardinals, who cares? It's still the Cowboys. They stink. And I just want to remind you one more time on the door out. Dallas, you stink. And stop. Just stop already with this. And you need to fire everybody. Fire the owner. Yeah. Fire the coach. Fire everybody. Fire the owner. Get
Jerry Jones.
Throw the whole team away. As bad as it is, and as upset as we are as 49ers fans about the way this season has gone, it can always be worse. You can always be a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm not gonna run away from this at all. One other thing I wanted to say too, it's victory lap time. Is there like an alarm or anything like that we can do? Because I'm taking one. Do you want me to take one, Steph? Do you know what I'm about to take a victory lap on?
No, go ahead.
Well, I already took the victory lap on telling you guys 3 weeks ago that the 49ers were going to go, this dispatch of the Dallas Cowboys. But hello, Isaac Guerendo. It turns out you are good at football, and people really, really, really wanted to throw dirt on your name pretty early on after 5 carries. Crazy how that works, huh? As soon as you see Isaac Guerendo at the combine, Steph, I'm looking at him. I'm like, such a Niner. There he is.
Such a Niner.
Pack your bags, pal. See you in Santa Clara. Isaac Guerendo, yes, it is against a terrible rush defense. 100%. One of the bottom in the league. I get that. 100%. But yeah, man, Isaac Guerendo, the timing and the thoughts and all the comments about his demise, widely, done up too early. The young man can hoop, and he looks like another 31 running the football, Steph.
Yes, he certainly does with that speed, and that's the speed that was advertised to us, right? With Isaac Guerendo, and we're finally seeing it. And you know why we're seeing it is because you can tell he has more confidence now when he's running the football. And I get it.
Wait. Getting reps gives you confidence, Steph?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Like, yes, getting reps makes you comfortable, makes you better. It all is intertwined. And I guess like on that note, like my victory lap would be let the rookies play. And
Hey.
you see what has happened when you let the rookies play, right? So this has kind of been my thing. And I know that on offense, it's on both sides, offense and defense, it's been because of injuries, but I hope this is like a valuable lesson to Kyle Shanahan that if you just give these rookies some of their reps, sure, they're going to make some mistakes, but they're also going to grow in the process. That is, if you did, in fact, draft who you thought you did, right? You should always have confidence in what you drafted. And I mean, we're seeing the early dividends of that for the 49ers on both sides of the ball. Isaac Guerendo, yeah, absolutely did well in this game. I know it was just the Cowboys defense, but that's what you're supposed to do against a bad rushing defense. And like we said, he looked fast. He looked decisive. Like he didn't hesitate going to the outside and having that breakaway speed that he had. He's following his blocks. He's seeing the hole better. So yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Guerendo, and I think even when Christian McCaffrey does return, you know, I think Guerendo should continue to have a role. I think Jordan Mason should continue to have a role. That shouldn't even be negotiable at this point, right? Like Christian, we're going to help you from yourself, and both of these guys are going to have snaps as well. In week 10, the 49ers are going to be going up against a team that involve all three running backs. You know why? Because all three of them are pretty good. So don't tell me it can't be done. I think, yeah, the 49ers should do that going forward. But going back to the rookies, like Ricky Pearsall looked pretty good. Hey. What about that end around for Ricky too? He hit a second gear on that one too. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. And then when we're talking about like creativity, like that's kind of what I was talking about when I wanted to see more of the rookies. And when I was like, get them in a role that fits their skill set. Like that was kind of what I was talking about. Right. So like, I have to give some credit to Kyle for doing that. And Ricky he looks NFL ready. Who would have thought? Right.
What's funny is the way Chris Collinsworth was describing Ricky Pearsall, and I mean,
yeah,
and by funny, I mean not funny at all and terrible. Actually, he's like, well, he's not the fastest guy in the world, and you know, he's not the best receiver in the world. What on earth are you talking about? What are you waffling about, Chris Collinsworth? That literally had no bearing on this. Like that didn't need to be said in any way. And he's a first round draft pick. Like what? I'm watching the game and I hear Chris Collinsworth say that nonsense, and it's just like I was just like, what is wrong? Like, is he drinking in the booth? Like, he has to be. Like, this man is off the sauce. He's like, he's not the greatest receiver in the world, and you're not the greatest receiver in the world, Chris Collinsworth. We can start cooking you. Like, what is this obsession with still being mad about the 40? Yeah, what is this obsession with still being mad at the 49ers because they stopped you from winning a Super Bowl, bro? Like, it's over. You're in the booth. You go to you work for PFF now. You are a mid receiver. Ricky Pearsall's probably gonna have more numbers than you. It's just crazy for him to say. Daza says, vibes since Super Bowl loss have been off-season issues, injuries this year. We have no idea what CMC Dre might look like when they come back. Also, Lions, Packers, Commanders, Vikings, Rams look better right now. What is all this negativity about here? What is going on, guys? I thought we were back. I thought the parade's back on. What is going on, guys? What are we doing here? What look, yes, things are wrong. And this is perfect. We can pivot to this. And just one more thing. Christian McCaffrey needs to come back worse than ever because Jordan Mason he can't handle it. He can't handle it by himself. As good as he's looked these last 3 weeks, he can't handle it. It's apparent that the more that he wore on, like or moved on, like he just wasn't as effective. But he needs to come back. But that also needs to be McCaffrey, Mason, Guerendo, those type of things. And Guerendo's a converted wide receiver, so throw him the ball a little bit more, man. He's a wide receiver in a running back's body. Like I don't have a problem with that at all. But so pivoting into this, obviously we have the bye week and everything. Trade outlook. I think we talked about it. The 49ers are going to assess themselves over this bye week, and they have until November 5th to make a move. And I wanted Deontay Johnson. Unfortunately, he's on his way to the Ravens for, you know, a 5th-round pick. But you know what? I'm sure the 49ers did their due diligence and weren't willing to part with a 5th-round draft pick. I mean, why would they? Because that's actually really valuable. That's when they hit. They probably should have just sent them a 1 because they're like, you know, or a 2 because they're usually not hitting on those. But Deontay Johnson's now a Raven. I think there's this discussion that everybody wants defensive line, so we can't address wide receiver. But why not both? Like, why not both? And my thing is, for a 5th-round pick, you can absolutely. When did this become an either or thing? Why can't you address wide receiver and the defensive line? You can do both if it's a 5th-round pick, right? Deontay Johnson's one of the better separators at X, and he still went for a 5th-round pick. I mean, the Chiefs just got Oosh from the Patriots for a 6th-rounder. Why does this have to become a either or thing? You can only address one. Address both. It's going to be a 5th, 6th-round pick. Move off it. Do it. But who's logically there? It's Darius Smith. You know, you look around the league, and there's a lot of edge rushers that I think, again, when we talked about it, we thought it would probably be a more low-level, you know, type of signing. By the way, shout out to Sammy O, because they're getting incredible production from him, man, as a nice rotational piece, man. That's one that we probably got to throw into the Chris Kosaric W pile, because I think he only played one other season with Tennessee, and he's like tripled those numbers in like 30 snaps. So is this a little bit of, you know, you're complimentary guys and you have guys getting you open? Yeah, but Sammy O's been great. But if you're looking at it right now, wide receiver, defensive line, I would say, are at the top of the 49ers list, or that they should be looking at. And now that list is just shorter now with the fact that Deontay Johnson, who could have been had for a 5th-round pick and would have been a rental because he's not under contract next season, is now a Baltimore Raven. Seems like the Ravens and the Chiefs are going all in, huh, Steph?
Yeah, it does. I still can't believe they got Uche for 6. That's robbery. But yeah, I mean, I do think that the 49ers could address wide receiver. I would still prioritize defensive line, getting the pass rusher over wide receiver. But like you said, it doesn't mean they can't address both. Like, you could do it. And yeah, that it's certainly still an option for them. Kendrick Bourne's still out there. I know Deontay Johnson was the one you were more interested in, but
don't start the Kendrick Bourne stuff.
Because I don't think the 49ers need like a Deontay Johnson. Would I scoff at the idea of bringing someone of that caliber in? No, absolutely not. But like, they still have Debo, they still have Kittle, they still have Juwan Jennings, right? Who should be back after the bye week. We see Ricky Pearsall, and he's getting open and he's looking good. That is your 1st-round pick. So like, I don't want someone to come in and take reps away from him, right? Chris Conley's hurt, right? Who knows where he'll be after the bye week. I'm more concerned about the depth than I am about like the first 3 guys, right? So if I'm going to trade for a wide receiver, it's going to be depth only. Kendrick Bourne would be fine depth. Like, I'd be cool with that. He already knows the offense, right? So like, I get it from that standpoint. It's not a sexy name or anything like that, but it's reliable and it addresses that need of depth, having better depth. So I wouldn't be mad at it. I wouldn't scoff at the idea of Bourne either. But I would definitely be addressing defensive line, pass rusher. Azeez Ojulari is probably my favorite option for the 49ers. He's only 24, dude. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, that's a trade you can make not just for this year, but like, you can keep that going forward. And what we've talked about, like, this team has had struggles like drafting edge rushers, right? Aside from like Nick Bosa, like they have struggled with Drake Jackson. Robert Beal is getting some snaps, but you know, we don't hear his name too often, right? So why not? We always talk about it, right? Like, draft picks are overvalued. If you know you can get someone proven, you know, why not use that instead of a draft pick that could be anything, could be a boat. Could be a boat. Ojulari, I think, is a good option when you think about that. It's not just a trade for now, it's a trade for the future as well. So I would be fine with that. Giants just lost again yesterday on primetime. We all saw it, unfortunately. But I think that's someone, if you want to be aggressive, that's someone you target, right? So
Darius Slayton. I would like somebody that's
option. Yeah, sure.
the reason that I'm so enamored with Deontay is Deontay can play X and get himself open by himself, route running, right? Like it feels like whoever's going to play X now, it's going to have to be schemed open one way or another, whether that's how you motion or your condensed splits. Like if Juwan Jennings plays X, Juwan Jennings can't get himself open outside the numbers by himself. He has to be in a condensed split to get to the spots. This offense is always more efficient when they have a dominant X who's getting open, as evidenced last year with Brandon Ayuk, Julio Jones the year with the Falcons, Andre Johnson the year with the Texans. Like that's what I want. Like a depth guy like Kendrick Bourne is not moving the needle. Like for me, that's just you're just happy that you have a guy.
You want a needle mover at wide receiver.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't feel like it's as big of a need, especially like I said, when Christian McCaffrey comes back. But I mean, I'll let you cook.
Well, the thing is this too, is you're not done like scouring who could be available right now at X, right now, because one more loss and then the trade deadline, then you can really find out who's going to be sellers. Like, the Panthers are sellers at 1-7. It's just Deontay would have fit perfectly because he gets himself open. He would have thrived in this offense and he would have been perfect for Brock Purdy to throw him the football. And if you need any more evidence, look at Deontay Johnson's numbers and his film when Bryce Young was the quarterback. He's open. Like, he's open. And it's all over the film. Now, Bryce Young can't get him the ball. Andy Dalton steps in. All of a sudden, Deontay Johnson has 7-10 catches when everyone knows he's the focal point of the offense. He's that guy. And for a 5th-round pick, that just felt like something really easy to do as a rental for 1 year, almost like an Emmanuel Sanders, like a turbo Emmanuel Sanders in that way, right? For a 5th-round pick, that's nothing. And you don't have to pay him because of next year. But we don't know who the 49ers can target right now at wide receiver until we get some more losses. And we get one more loss and everybody just looks around and they're like, well, pack it up. Like, we're going to figure that out. Obviously, defensive line is still going to be a priority, but it's not an either or. Like, you can do both. I just feel like when this offense is dominant and it's as efficient as it can be, you coming out of the bye with a guy who can get open at X with Christian McCaffrey and everybody else and being healthy, now this offense becomes just as explosive as it was last season, and you start to get, all the way up, like when it comes to that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes, but mark me down for no on Kendrick Bourne. Let's just, make sure we put that up. Yeah, I'm good. Unless we're just turning back into a vibes team. If we're turning back into a vibes team, let's call Quan Alexander. Let's see what other guys are up to and see what they've been, But the 49ers can absolutely address both. And they made it to the bye week now. They've got 3 running backs that they're going to be fine with at this point. Now McCaffrey, Guerendo, Mason. So you don't have to address that. Although maybe Khalil Herbert could be somebody like that if Mason's got an injury for, a longer period of time. But other than that, your secondary is going to be fine to go, like at this point, because of the way Demo's been playing. Renardo Green, highest graded 49er on defense this season. So I'm not this season, on last week. So yeah, like you're good almost everywhere else, like you're fine everywhere else, and everything's kind of shaping into place. So I think this is the perfect place to pivot here to looking around at the NFL media. They're starting to say, well, the 49ers got their footing a little. They're 4-4. They're getting all their guys back. They're going to get reinforcements. They possibly could be traders. And we've seen them become the team that goes on a run, right? And Tampa Bay's injured. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin in this game. That's about to happen 2 weeks from now. Then you start to look around. The injuries are starting to pile up a little bit more. Jordan Love's been banged up. Sounds like he'll make it, and be fine, but sounds like he's been going through some stuff. With the way that this season is going, the 49ers have a chance to do the funniest thing in the world, which is leave their bye week and start to be healthier than everybody else because they got rid of all their injuries early in the season. And I'm just scared of this, Steph. I think the 49ers are going to pass off their reinforcements as their deadline moves. Like, our deadline move is getting Christian McCaffrey back and Dre Greenlaw back. Nah, get them back and get someone else too. Like, get all those guys together. But do the 49ers have a chance to become that team that just goes on a run because they are healthier and they've been down this road before and they're still super talented?
They absolutely could. Like, there's no reason to not feel that way when you when you think about Christian McCaffrey and you know how much he does for this team, I mean, you look at the 49ers struggling on third down in the red zone, and you think, hey, I know a guy. I know a guy who could fix this. Like, right? And his name's Christian McCaffrey, right? So, yeah, we know the 49ers are leaving points up on the board. We see guys who are open. We see scoring opportunities that, for whatever reason, whether it's execution, whether it's penalties, are getting squandered, right? So it's right there. It's right there for them. But there's some pieces that got to be put in place. And a big piece is Christian McCaffrey, among other things. Those other things can be addressed, as well as McCaffrey coming back during this bye week, right? So, yeah, they absolutely could do it. Now, whether they do it is a different question. Because, like, to this point, that's what we're talking about, right? To this point, we don't really know what this team is, what their identity is. Are they going to go back to being the team closer to the team they were last season after this bye week? If they are, then absolutely they can go on a run, and I don't care who they're going up against, they can handle it, right? But I still have concerns. Like, I don't know. It's tough. And I'll be honest with you, Jay, like I feel like the Bucs are better than a lot of people are saying, even with the injuries. Like Cade Otton, like he's good. I talked about the 3 running backs that they have. I hope the 49ers run defense is ready for that challenge, because it's coming, right? Baker's been playing some good football. He's been turning the ball over too. Which, again, like that goes back to the 49ers being able to capitalize on those opportunities. They did it against Dak, at least in one of the interceptions that they got the week prior against Patrick Mahomes, not so much. So, like, the defense is getting those opportunities. The offense has to cash it in. Yeah. So that's my question. Like, can they do it? If everything falls in line the way we're expecting it to, the answer is yes.
Yeah, and this is going to boil down less to the reinforcements and more just the execution. Like, you can't leave food on the table like you did in this game and have all these touchdowns called back. We talk about how frustrated we are with Kyle Shanahan and his play calling. All right, he dials up a perfect play that is going to be a touchdown for Deebo Samuel, call back on holding. He dials up a perfect touchdown pass for Jacob Cowie, just underthrown by a little, right? So it's the little stuff that needs to be ironed out that I'm more concerned about than the reinforcements, because even though I'd love to have, McCaffrey back clearly, right? Like at full strength. And obviously Drake Greenlaw is going to be, no matter what shape he's in, thank you. Please just come back and play football. But it's the little stuff. That's what I'm more concerned about coming out of this bye week, is the execution and the discipline, and stop being sloppy, right? Like, it's just right now, when we look at these losses to the Rams and the Cardinals, and we look at these losses and even the game that they won, because they almost blew another lead in this one, it's not a Christian McCaffrey thing. It's not a Drake Greenlaw thing. It's you beating yourself, you being undisciplined, you not executing. That's far more concerning, and what I feel needs to be ironed out in this bye week more than the reinforcements. The reinforcements are nice, but if you're not executing, it doesn't matter who's on the field. You're just going to keep shooting yourself in the foot and putting other teams in position to come back and letting guys hang around. So that's what I'm saying. What's the identity of this team? Is the identity of this team that they're going to be sloppy, give us glimpses, then, revert right back in the same game and let teams hang around and nothing's going to be easy? Or do they come out of this bye week understanding that we've got to iron out the little details? The devil's in the details when it comes to execution. It's little stuff. There's one step that's being taken wrong by a blocker that doesn't open up a hole. Mason gets stuffed, and it should be a run for a touchdown. The Guerendo missed block. I love what he did running the football. That Guerendo missed block that almost, I don't know how Brock didn't fumble that football. Man. That's a house call for Pearsall. Yeah. That's a house call for Pearsall. Like, if he just gets that ball out, little stuff like that. And better teams are going to take advantage of you allowing them to stand around. And that's the problem. I'm more concerned with this team ironing out the little details than I am with the reinforcements coming. The reinforcements are nice, but if you're not executing, it doesn't matter who's on the field, and you're just going to find ways to beat yourself.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is, I mean, the 49ers have looked good against bad teams. What are they going to look like against this second slate of teams that they have coming up, right? Like, that's kind of my question. Because it seems almost like teams aren't afraid of the Niners right now. They just don't look at the Cowboys.
That's true.
yes, they are because the 49ers own them. But what about when the 49ers are going up against these teams like the Packers, the Bills, the Lions in the second half of this? I'm terrified of the Lions right now. I'll just say
they're
that.
the best
I
team.
am
They're the best team in the
terrified.
NFC. They are the best team in the NFC, hands down. Not even
They
close.
look like what the Niners did last season, and maybe
Yeah.
like even more scoring potency than the 49ers had last season, which is saying a lot. So, yeah, like I don't know how the 49ers are going to respond when they inevitably get punched in the mouth by one of these teams, right? That's another question. Like we still haven't seen how they're going to handle that. To this point, they haven't handled it well. So if I'm using that as like a guide for this next half of the season, I don't feel great about it. But I think if they can just go back to basics like we saw them do in the second half of that Cowboys game, I think that can go a long way to just being like, okay, like we can do this. Just stack plays. Like it's just it's got to be the small thing. Like you said, like devil is in the details. Just small things can pile up into being the bigger things, into explosives, into finishing, into being consistent. Like this team has not been consistent at all this year. And we talked about it last week, right? We're like, we still haven't seen like a complete game from this team. Like one unit will look good, the next one will look bad, and they like trade off drives. Sometimes they trade off games. Like I don't even know, right? So we need to see more consistency from this team as well. I think the 49ers need to decide who they want to be this year.
Yeah.
I think obviously it's not going to be the same team as you were last year. That's why I think they're struggling so much with the identity thing, because you want to be who you've always been. You want to be the bully, but maybe that's not you this year, and that's okay. Like, but as long as you can win games, you can survive your way. Like that's all that matters. That's all we care to see, right? So I just need them. I keep using the word. Need them to be scrappy. And just survive. I think that could go a long way.
So I'm gonna ask a question real quick, Rob. Rob, Steph, one of you guys can let me know. Is Christian McCaffrey's mom's name Lisa?
I think so.
Let Rob check that out. And if he says it in the group chat, then I'll say what why I'm bringing that up. If not, then it really doesn't matter. But
is this some Simpsons reference?
No.
Okay.
No. And the super chat, prayers for Mooney Ward. Yeah, Wesley. Just an unfortunate situation. Hope everything is good. And Rob says Christian McCaffrey's mom is indeed named Lisa. The reason I bring this up is because one of my shit posting memes about Christian McCaffrey just got liked by Lisa McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's mother. Yeah. Nice. Oh man, you know what? I gotta screenshot that. That's pretty funny. And it's the video of Drewski getting out of jail, and he's like demon home, no. And I'm like McCaffrey coming back to save the Niners season. Demon home.
There's a Drewski meme for everything.
It's a Drewski meme for everything. Yeah, not to take away from the Mooney Ward thing. Obviously we spoke about it, and it's a horrible thing, but we got to throw some humor like towards the end here as well too. But we're getting towards the end, so let's do this exercise. Rob, if you could pull up the schedule. Steph, chat, let us know. We're gonna go through it right now. The vibes are high. Don't make me tap the sign. We're so back. It's time to go after the bye week and go WLWL. So let's start out of the bye week, week 10. Let's just say, for all intents and purposes, Christian McCaffrey's back. Dre Greenlaw doesn't play in this game, but Christian McCaffrey's back
against the Tampa Bay. Sorry.
Well, McCaffrey's back. No Dre Greenlaw, and the Bucs will not have Chris Evans. Woo! I'm all MCU up here. Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. W or L, Steph?
I think it's going to be a W if McCaffrey's back, but I think it'll be an ugly W. That's an early game. You're traveling to Tampa. Anything can happen, but I think they fixed just enough to get over the Bucs if Christian's back.
Yeah, put me down for a W. That's 5-4. Now we're going to Seattle. Seattle, what do you say, W or L? Doesn't matter who. I hope they all play. I hope Sean Alexander comes back. I hope Cam Chancellor comes back. Bring everybody on. Like, I don't care at this point with Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle, I call it a win. I mean, that's going to be a home game for the Niners as well. I think we're starting to see some struggles for Seattle this year. They're
They
going
got
through
boat
some growing
raced by
pains.
Buffalo.
So, yeah, man. So, yeah, that should be a win.
Yes. So I agree. W 6-4 at Green Bay Sunday Night Football.
L.
Ooh, L. I will say an L as well too. 6-5 at Buffalo.
L.
6-6. I agree. Chicago Bears. Their players don't know when to not celebrate.
Bears have a good defense, so I can see the 49ers offense struggling that game. I'm gonna say it's a win though, because the Bears like this little discombobulated too. They're still trying to find their footing.
Yeah, give me a W as well too. I mean, but that game's gonna be really mean and ugly. We didn't really think that that's how it was gonna be. Obviously, all right. At the Rams, or at home against the Rams, Steph, and might I just say the Rams look really good, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool when you have a quarterback who can actually throw the football like really far down the field, and he's really good. Not that Brock can't. I'm just saying we stop sleeping on Matthew Stafford.
I don't know who's sleeping on Matthew Stafford at this point.
A lot of people.
It's crazy. No,
stat pattern. No, bro, he can throw the football from amazing angles. He's actually really good at football.
He's very good. Yeah, that's an L.
That's an L? Nah, give me a W. I think the 49ers, this is when you're going to start to see them round into shape. And I think this is when you're going to start to feel like it. So you've got it at, let's see. So it's 5-4, 6-6, 7-6. You got them at 7-7 after the Rams game. I've got them at 8-6. Right.
Have we talked about Greenlaw coming back yet? Like,
yeah, well, we haven't, but that's why I think that he'll be back by then. They'll be rounding it into shape.
I might feel better about that Rams game in a couple weeks. Right now, October 29th, I don't. So yeah, okay. I'll stick with L there.
Another Florida trip, Miami Dolphins and our good old buddy Coach Mike. Let's just say Tua plays. W or L?
Dub.
That's a dub as well too. I agree. That's a W as well too. I mean, Tua did move that offense a lot better. Obviously, it's not hard to move that offense better than it looked, before. But yeah, I got that as a W. Lions at home. That's a L.
L.
Yeah, right now the Lions are just too good, man. They're just putting it all together, and they're gonna be the ones who trade for Zadarius Smith. Like, just watch. Like, and it's gonna piss me off because they lost Hutchinson. And then the Cardinals at the end of the season.
I think the 49ers, get their look back.
Get back.
Yeah. I think they win that one.
W. I got the 49ers 10-7 and NFC West champions and making the playoffs as a wild card. Steph has them at 9-8 and kind of just praying
still could very much win the division with that record, by the way. But yeah.
Hey. Good news is over 500. That's how we're looking. But yeah, it's not an easy road. And of all the teams that are left, only the Bears, Seahawks, and Cardinals didn't make the playoffs last year, and the Bears still have a winning record, and they would have even more of a winning record if their safety knew how to play football and wasn't a moron. So I think again that's what makes that game a lot more different than how we looked at it, when the schedule came out. But I've got it 10-7. Steph's got it 9-8. Good news is both Bully Ball podcasters believe the 49ers are going to have a over 500 record. I just feel like they're going to make the playoffs and win the division. So give me 10-7 and give me all the optimism right now in a bye week and a season where we've been killing each other about how negative things are. You're not gonna knock me down this week, man. So we can get back to it next week if you want to just
what
yell
about
at me.
Your Yankees, dude? Can they get?
Who cares? It's not a real sport. It's not a real sport. This is a football podcast. Nobody cares, honestly, Steph.
We were counting on you. We were rooting for
counting
you.
on me. Yeah. You know what? I completely blame myself. My God. Yeah, I could have done way more. I just feel like I'm not showing up in this World Series. But yeah, 10-7 for the 49ers. And I think, look, what you want to be is you want to be that team. Yeah, Freddie Freeman homers again. You want to be that team that nobody wants to face, regardless, right? Like now you don't want to be the team that has to go on the road every game, essentially, because Detroit's going to run away with this number 1 seed and they'll have the first week off and everything's going to go through them. But if there's ever been a team that has been coached to do it, And if there's ever been a team that really has a chance to turn the corner and change things, it's the 49ers. Do I count on it? No. But that's the optimism you have to have going forward. And I think a lot of people that are around the league, analysts, NFL media, I did a power ranking roundup. It seems like everybody's saying the same thing about, even Mike Florio. Rob, clip this. Mike Florio says, man, if this team can get healthy, there's not a team better than them, like top to bottom. Mike Florio said that. Mike Florio. So, yeah, it's just time to just now kind of just take a deep breath, take the week off. The team has to learn to execute better. If they get all their guys back, they make a trade. This team could look vastly different coming out of the bye. And then we'll assess each game as we go along, and we figure out what shape those teams are in, because the way the injuries have been happening, guys are dropping like flies, man. It's just, it's terrible, man. So, and one other thing, if you want me to throw some negativity out there, and I don't know why you would, the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan have never made the Super Bowl without the number 1 seed. Do with that information whatever you will. So that's going to do it for us. Again, good energy and thoughts to Mooney Ward and his family, man. I just, that having that break, like while we're on here, just, it kind of threw me off, man. It's just, again, hug your loved ones, tell everybody that's important to you, love them, check in on everybody. You never know what's going to happen, man. But, hopefully his family, uses the bye to try to get better. I can't imagine, man. But that'll do it for us. It's another episode of Bully Ball on the Ghost Standard Podcast Network. Follow Steph on Twitter at Steph49K. Follow me on Twitter at JasonAponte2103. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and subscribe to the Ghost Standard Podcast Network wherever you get all your audio podcasts. And, Steph and I have YouTube channels. You could go and subscribe to that as well, too. We got a lot of good content coming during the week as well, too. But for Steph, for Jay, we're out of here.
Peace.